Welcome to Truth in the Trenches. This is where real talk meets real basketball. We break down the game, the grind, and the grimy truth behind the scenes. If you're tired of the fluff and ready for the facts, you're in the right place. No clickbait, no filters, just basketball, business, and bold takes. Let's get in the trenches. Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of Truth in the Trenches, where we talk the truth, whether you like it or not. And hey, Kameo, how you doing?
Man, I am good, feeling good. It's 4th of July. That's exciting. Get some family time in yesterday. We went and rocked, Disneyland
Oh, my.
for my little one. And it was amazing. It was truly, truly, truly amazing.
I bet. How many miles did you walk?
Man, I don't know. I should have had something on so I can get my
Yep.
steps in, because I got we got our steps in.
I know you did. I always ask that question when somebody tells me to go to Disneyland, and especially if they stayed all day. How many miles did you walk? So,
We were all day. But
yeah.
it was tremendous. It was my first time. So
Oh, really?
yeah.
Ever?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, my oldest didn't get a chance. I didn't get a chance to take them, which ironically, now that I've taken the smallest one, I'm gonna go backwards and take my 33-year-old and my 17-year-old. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Wow. All right, so we are going to get into it, and we have a couple things that I want to discuss that probably we're not going to see eye to eye on this one, but it's good because it's going to be truth in the trenches.
Okay.
And the first topic I want to talk about, then we'll segue into the second topic. But the first topic, I did a Substack on revenue share and that the house settlement and NIL, how they're two separate entities. And one of the things that came out was USC announced that they were going to be giving 75% to football, 15% to men's basketball, and then 5% to women's basketball, and then 5% amongst all the other sports, which are Olympic sports, to break it down. And, I kind of felt some kind of way about that.
Okay.
Not, football, okay, I could see them getting a higher portion of the revenue, but a team like USC's women's basketball, who's really come to the forefront, and USC's men's basketball, who's really been not really as popular as the women's basketball team, I thought should get equal amount somehow, some way as what the boys are generating. So
Yeah.
my whole thing is when I look at it, revenue share, USC football's getting 75%, and then it's a big drop for all the other sports. It did make me feel some kind of way. So we can start off the conversation with, you know, give me your perspective on that.
Um. Well, the crazy thing is, I feel some type of way, but then I pause and I go backwards and just go even with the numbers. If you just go with the sheer numbers, and we'll go with say quantity of players, right? Let's just say 100 for a football team, and in theory,
Hmm.
25 for a basketball team. Where you're going to have a 75-25 split off the rip, unless you're the one generating the most revenue, right? So most of the time in business, the people generating the most revenue are going to get the larger cut. Um, kind of like an owner of a franchise. Yeah, I'll pay LeBron 150 million, but I'm, over here generating 3 billion, so of course I'm gonna get the larger cut. So from that standpoint, I understand it just from a numerical standpoint of quantity of players. And then you can get into the actual generated revenue. The gender piece of it, I get that. Because keep in mind, even when we speak on the men's basketball team, they ain't getting no large cut either, right? Because football, for pretty much 99% of the schools, is what's keeping all the other ones even afloat. It keeps all the it basically pays the bills. At the end
Yeah.
of the day, it pays the bills, and when you're the one bringing home the bacon, so to speak, you're going to get the larger, piece of the crispy bacon. Um, Whether I like that or not, I can understand that piece of it. Um, And then as other things matriculate up, um, then maybe the numbers will change, because ultimately what's going to end up happening is there's just going to be some sports that go by the wayside. At this model, there's going to be some sports that go by the wayside, um, because you still have Title IX still. So if I got 150 male athletes, ideally I want to have 150 female athletes, right? Uh,
Right.
which we're not going to have, right?
Yeah.
It's not going to have. So that means there's going to be actually some men programs of certain sports that are going to go by the wayside. The ones that are going to go by the wayside, either you don't generate enough revenue or you don't generate enough eyeballs on the program, right? The USC women generate enough eyeballs on the program. So there's some definitive value and intrinsic value at the same time. Consequently, not wanting to cap on nobody, but let's just say you're rowing.
What? No!
Not a lot of
You
eyes on
said
rowing.
no. It's the way I don't want to cap on nobody, and then you go ahead and talk about role. Okay, go
I mean,
ahead.
but
Go
I'm
ahead. I get it.
in terms of like fans and on
Yeah.
TV and what the majority of people can think about doing, right? There are people who can think, whether they're good or not. I could just pick up a basketball, go out there and try to throw it in and see if it goes in. Just in general, just to play around and you could feel like you're a part of the sport or connected to the sport. It's not a lot of us that's hopping in a canoe and trying to row. So the connectivity to people is not the same, right?
Right. Right.
So I think ultimately, if you're not generating revenue and or getting eyeballs, being aesthetically pleasing, those sports ultimately are going to go by the wayside. That's what I believe. That's where I believe we're headed, um, as we get more to a professional model, which we're that close
Yeah.
from from being there. So that's my take on it.
Let me ask you this from another point of view. Then, if you're a school that's not a football heavy program,
Mhm.
like you said, there's a lot of schools out there that they bank on their football team making the money, right? That drives their revenue. But if you're a team, say like Gonzaga or UConn, that has great basketball programs and their football program is not driving the revenue, how is that revenue going to be split? And then my second part of that is, when it's a basketball heavy program and not a football heavy program, do you see the upside of recruiting to those schools getting better, and because they have more money to offer on the basketball side than the football side?
Well, first of all, great question. And I think there's layered answers. So let me make sure we get this out there. All of these schools, so they're the cap. Now we now have a cap, right? So previously, for those who aren't aware, we didn't have a cap, right? Which is why all these people who were transferring were getting all these crazy numbers for their deals, right? There was no
Right.
cap, right? So now there's a cap. Is it? I think it's 20.5 million or 22
Wait,
point.
wait. There's a cap for revenue share, but there's still no cap for NIL. They're two
Okay,
separate
let
entities.
me go for revenue
Okay,
share.
okay,
I want
okay,
to go for revenue share.
okay.
So even when we're talking revenue shares, let me be clear. The cap is 22.5. Everybody don't have 22.5,
Yeah.
right? So because we use Gonzaga as an example, they don't have 22.5, right? Not in that. So theirs may be like, there are some schools who have $8 million total for the whole, for everybody. Some don't even have that. So then if we took out everything out there and we just go with the numbers, right? You're business minded, CC. You just went, forget the sport. We did a blind thing and just let's go with the numbers. Who's generating what? What are we putting out? Right. And now you gotta be like, man, we gotta make some decisions here. Whatever, whichever the sport is. And I just think you proportionately disperse it. Because if you proportionately disperse it, to me, that's equal, right?
Mm-hmm.
To me, or equitable. Like I said, it's
Right.
equitable if you
Right.
do it that way. I think my feelings, because I'm on the women's side and I want the women's game, to keep ascending.
Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
love them to get the larger chunk of the money. But I think if you brought in business people and just said, hey, do this economic breakdown and cost effective way of doing it, sometimes in women's sports are not going to get what I feel I would want them to get. So you have that. So I think ultimately, if you don't have football, then I think we already reduced something there where they're really going to do that cost analysis even more because you're not getting in, you know, X amount of hundreds of millions of dollars from TV money and road
Right.
money and all of that. So now you're really, I just think that I think we put the cart before the horse with this model. I really, really feel that way. I really do because, and I don't mean to be long with it. I'll give you guys an example. Sanaya Hall. Probably shouldn't have said her name, but whatever. She was going to reclass
Mm-hmm.
for the 25 class,
Mm-hmm.
for reclass. And because there was no cap, but it was trending, right? It was trending toward a cap. But obviously, if she could have came out at 25, now
Yeah.
Olivia Miles numbers or something crazy, right? You're the number one
Yeah.
ranked. Now there's a cap. And not that she's not going to get big bucks, but every school has a cap. So now what is she going to get from that cap? Right? What is she going to get from that cap? The days of being able to do, I ain't gonna say that. I'm gonna just say eight clap. We don't mention the other side here. I'm gonna say eight clap. The days of getting 8 to 9 high rank recruits is gonna be over.
Even
Unless
even even if it's not a football program, but say like a UConn that I mean their women's program is so they're gonna get even if it's 10 million, they're gonna get 5 million, whereas USC is getting 1 million. You know what I mean? So those recruiting dollars are still going to be available for UConn to bring in good players compared to a school that's football heavy.
no, you are right. I agree to a degree, but keep in mind there's a cap now. So let's just say the cap is 1 million. Hypothetical. We're going hypotheticals. If you're Paige Beckers, what are you getting? 25%,
Yeah.
30%. So all right. So we gave her 300,000. There's 700,000 left. Right. There's 700,000 left.
Amongst 12 players.
And so what do you do?
What if you have three good stars like the WNBA? I mean, you know what I mean? What if you have three stars on your team, like say like the Aces used to, right? They were top side heavy and had no bench because all those players took up all the revenue. Is that the model that the college
But
ball
when
is
I
going to
say
go to?
we're trending toward that, right? Right? We're trending toward that. And so you just won't it would take a special player to know I can get $300,000 from the school and choose to say I'm just going to take 125 because I believe in Gino or Lindsay or whoever. I'm gonna take that and be a part of this whole great whatever. The difference from 300,000 to 125,000 is life changing.
Well,
For
maybe I think that yeah, absolutely, you're absolutely right. But
for me, actually, for me, I'm sorry, y'all.
yeah,
For you, like,
no, it's life changing for a lot of people, I would imagine. But here's the kicker: if that were to happen, right? If somebody were to say, you know what, let's disperse some money amongst everybody so we can all eat. That's when I think the NIL collective comes in and gets it on the backside.
well, yes, and in theory, yes, but that's it's still not gonna catch up, right? Because some now the best of the best, your Juju's gonna be Juju. She's gonna go run amok, right? Uh, and you can't play with the dollars either. And I just learned this talking to a group of college coaches where now Deloitte and Tush comes in to oversee the
Mm.
NIL money. Like that's it. You guys can go to NCAA website, check it out. But Deloitte and Tush now they come in and say, "Oh, so you mean you to tell me you had Cece come in, say 2 words, and you guys gave her $400,000 in NIL, right? That's like so that you're not just giving out money. You know what I mean? You got to
Yeah,
say
yeah.
it was for this. It was legitimate. I don't know how they're going to determine that. because I still think you can fudge it. But so I say that to say it's still getting more and more streamlined. It is what's happening. And so definitely NIL can come in and help, and it's still going to be for the top players. But you can't do seven or one. Like you're not going to do. Who's doing seven?
Well,
Like
then again, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I just got my thoughts be going.
it's good.
Then again, somebody like Juju, right? She don't need NIL. She don't need the NIL collective to get her endorsements, right? Because she can use her agency and get those endorsements from the outside. Or is that illegal in college? I'm still trying to
No,
understand
no.
how this all works.
Still think of it like an endorsement. Nothing prevents me from still getting an endorsement, right? It's the NIL collective where the school is powering behind it to help you get it. Those are the ones that's going to be governed. I hate to use that word, but those are the ones that's going to be governed and kind of looked at. But she doesn't need it, but you're not going to turn it down.
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
let's see victory, yeah,
House
yeah,
of Victory.
that house of victory come in like, hey, we got you like bet, hey, send it by Zelle, we good. Why?
Yeah,
So, so I
and
think they,
I would imagine House of Victory too being a, a NIL collective based in LA. They're strong. You know what I mean?
that's like USC is. I don't want to use the word lucky. USC has earned, right? They've earned their stripes and sweat equity to have that type of NIL collective. And I think Lindsay and the staff and the school have done an amazing job of giving the players those opportunities and working in synergy and concert with them. So they do an amazing job. They definitely are built for the future. I'm talking even after just the players and the staff. They're built towards having a vision of where this is going. Some weren't built for where this was going, right?
Yeah,
So definitely
yeah,
ahead of the curve. And so recruits it's why it's an attractive place for recruits, from Lindsay to players to city, and having that level of a foundation behind it and having some foresight and some vision as to where this is going, and generating resources based on that vision of where this is going so that it funnels down and trickles down to the players. So they're ready. But I do think we're going to see some separation with the football schools. Unfortunately, we are. When I say unfortunately, I'm talking about for the masses. It just is. Like, what is Eastern Washington going to do? What are you doing? I'm just saying, you got football, whatever it is. But
that's
what
mean. Stop being mean.
I'm saying, but what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Like, it's um, it's the equivalent of me going in with my homeboys and we're about to play the Lakers. You know, I'm 5'10". I'm gonna go up with
Nope.
this weak ass layup and look in that thing, you know, from El Segundo on across, the grapevine, right?
Yeah,
No matter
yeah,
what I do, no matter what I do, I'm trying to hang in there, and he just, it,
yeah,
it looks like that, and it's trending toward the haves and the have-nots.
yeah,
It's always been that way, but now when you put that money and found it, man, it just so I don't know exactly what it'll look like, but I definitely know there's going to be some changes. I definitely know that. And one of them, and Corey spoke to it too, you're just not going to be able to have, you just can't satisfy them economically or with playing time. The days of I got the number one recruiting class with 6 to 8 high level top 20 kids. Okay, well, some people are transferring guaranteed. If you're able to even get them to buy into such a thing, because that eighth player in that class can go and command 275 from the school.
that's crazy. That brings up another question to segue into this next conversation that I'd love to have with you. And
Okay.
we talk about it via text,
Right.
and that's player accountability. Now I have to pull up my notes because I want to make sure I get this right because we're gonna talk about player accountability right now. We're gonna because I know it's something that you really, really are adamant about. So players say the right things. They say they want to be held accountable. They say they want to go to a school that is going to push them to be accountable. But then when push comes to shove, it's all yak, 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 yak. So, Cameo, from your coaching perspective, do you feel like players wanting to talk about being held accountable, but when it's time to live it out, they fold?
I think that a lot of them do fold. I do. Um, because it takes time to build new habits, right? And everybody needs to build some new habits when they come to high level Division I basketball, right? I'm navigating screens differently now. In high school, that's a 5'6" kid setting the screen. This is a 6'5", 6'4", chiseled, been with the strength and conditioning coach, and they setting two of them. I got to navigate it every day, all day. Multiple efforts are required. It sounds good till you get there, and you're like, whoa. And then you say, this is different. And it's okay that you say this is different, but now your coaches get to come in, say, hey, Cece, hey, I want you to understand you got to get low, drop your hips, and wrap around that screen. Big step and beat them on the other side. I need you to do that, else you're compromising our defense. This is how you do it. We're gonna rep it out. And you just don't want to get hit with the screens. You just like, I gotta do this every day for a whole season with grown women. And now you're making decisions on the screen, right? Well, your coaches are supposed to say that's not good enough.
Yeah.
They're supposed to say that's not, get Malia in the game. She's a pit bull. She's gonna fight through the screen, right? Like, so I don't think that people like that level of accountability in the open. They don't like it privately. They don't want it in the open. So when do you want it? By text? By TikTok? When do you want it? Like,
Yeah.
because I'm supposed to do this. My mortgage is on the line.
Yeah.
My kids going to private school is on the line. Me with these amazing assistants I got, me keeping them, CC, is on the line, right? So
Yeah.
I need to get the best optimal performance out of you I can. And I'm supposed to teach you that. I'm supposed to challenge you. That is part of it. You can't say you want to learn algebra, but you want to just stay in basic arithmetic. And anytime I start mentioning different fragments and angles and degrees, you're like, whoa, coach got me messed up. Coach won't let me do me. No, coach is not going to let you do basic arithmetic. We need some trigonometry over here. And I'm supposed to tell you I need it. And now you're mad. And so I think that I just think people want the path of least resistance, which there's players like that, some talented ones. The problem I have is on the other side of that, you still want that university to push you. You still want them to give you these amazing pictures to post. You still want them to have this amazing social media presence for you. You still want them to help you get some NIL, help you get some sponsorship, help you get some internship, put you out there. You still want all that, right? And I'm like, no, I don't want to give it to you. No,
Okay.
like you need to come and earn it. And I'm fine if you earn it. I got it here. The accountability for me at that level that they say they want is not there. I'm not even sure that some of these young people believe it themselves. I'm not sure they believe it themselves. And it's not my opinion. I can look at people's actions. Like it can sound like this. I hear it all the time. The type of school I'm thinking about going to. I want a coach that's really going to challenge me. I want a coach that they play a fast system. I like nice weather. I want to go where it's
Nice weather.
not, inclement weather, and I want to play for a male coach. I know what I want. And as I go through my recruitment process, CC, this I know what I'm looking for. Okay, cool. And then
Yeah.
and then you go to Mississippi State.
You what?
Like, okay, well, somebody lied. Some was what? Because all the boxes, I can understand all the boxes you stated. You went somewhere where you checked none of those. By the way, shout out, I love my guy, Sam. It's not him.
Yeah. Yeah.
In
Yeah.
that scenario, you got one right. You want to play for a male coach. You got one right. So and I'm learning, and I'm like, wow, that kid went there. That's none of the things that they said, and I'm a guy that goes back. I'm a guy that goes back and I'm looking at the quotes. I'm looking at the posts. Some of the players I know, right? Somebody
Yeah.
had, like, I mean, first of all, congratulations. I mean, but I'm shocked. Coach, why are you shocked? Because you said A, B, and C. You said, man, I just want to come in and learn and however coach want to use me.
Yeah.
And then and coach says, I want you to be a screener. I want you to roll. I want you to clean the glass and run the floor. You do those things, I will play you. And you're like, man, coach, don't let me do me. I'm not getting 20 shots a game. What happened to coach using you the best way coach saw fit?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
part of that's part of that's
Yeah.
and then there's kind of accountability also on the other side. But we can get into that a whole nother.
Yeah. I have a two-part comeback for you on this.
Okay.
The first one you talked about accountability to where the players are having problems or challenges with coaches holding them accountable as far as what they need to do to get better. You know, you need to drop your hips, you need to be able to slide correct, and so on and so forth. So let me play devil's advocate for you.
Okay.
And I'm going to play devil's advocate, and I'm going to start this by saying some kids, you know, or most kids coming out of high school, they're still growing mentally and emotionally, and they, at the moment, think they know what they want, right? That's one part of it. But two, their whole entire basketball journey thus far might have been being held accountable, but being held accountable in a way that they might interpret pain. So, in other words, they've been used to being shamed, being yelled at, being told, you know, you can do better by their parents all the time. So, when they get into a college program and their coach is holding them accountable, instead of looking at it in a positive way as, you know, you're going to make me better, they associate it with pain. So, my question to you is how do you decipher that and how do you help a young player who wants to be held accountable but spin it into a positive way because they don't know how to do that emotionally? They're just torn up because of the way they've been raised their
Right.
entire life. Does that make sense?
I get the perspective. I definitely see where you're coming from. I'll speak to me and my coaching journey. So I'll give a first person account. For me, I always define what accountability is to me, for my program, right? That for me, I want them to know it, right? And I also drill down from a communication and specifics perspective of what it looks like for me to hold you accountable. See, so I got the standards, guidelines for my program, my expectations of you, how we can get there, right? And what your role is in that process of getting there, right? I may not need everybody else to do 1,000 dribbles before practice, Cece, but I may need you to do that with your left hand.
And what if me, I sense that as you're picking on me because that's what my parents used to do to me all the time. How do we overcome that?
That's a good point. So we have to have open dialogue because my question to you would be if you were the player, okay, how do you plan to get to the dreams that you said you had? How do you plan to get there? Right? Because the way it is right this minute, you have value here, but you don't have the value you think you have. Right? We don't even have the value I hope you eventually could bring to the team. My job is to teach you. My job is to try to bring it out. Your job is not to resist that. Your job is to buy into that so that we get to your dreams, right? That's the key. You want the dreams, right? So this is not about pain. This is about performance. This is about production. In high level basketball, is about performance, it is about production, and it is about consistency. How can we get you to do those things consistently? That's going to require maybe you got to lift an extra 15 minutes. Maybe you got to watch film extra. Yes, I'm going to ride you like Zorro if you're jogging up and down the court and I think you can sprint. You want to score more. You telling me you can't out sprint the other big and get one basket a quarter? You can't out sprint the big. And I'm going to challenge you to do that. If
Yeah.
I know you're capable of doing it, If I know you're capable of doing 10 rebounds, I
Yeah.
understand with eight.
Yeah.
We shouldn't have
I,
no games when you got three. We shouldn't have no games.
I,
Where
I, I just think that I get what you're saying, and I agree with you 100%. I just think that when you look at it from another perspective, as the one I just told you, I think it's just hard for coaches to dismantle that because I mean, there are a lot of kids that are being coached and parented differently, and they just see it as pain. I mean, it's just like every time you say something to me, it's negative. You know what I mean? Because that's what they're used to. So I just think as coaches, it's hard to disseminate getting the kid to separate, hey, this is not, I'm not being negative towards you. I understand that you've been through whatever you've been through. I mean, coaches wouldn't say that, but from the perspective that I'm telling you, it's hard to get a kid psychology wise to overcome that, say, emotional stress that has been put on them their whole career,
right,
and flip it to, I just want to make you better, because that's their parent has been telling them that too. You got to get your ass out there and you got to work hard if you want to be the best. You know what I mean? So they associate it with pain.
right. And I see where you're coming from with it, especially as a devil's advocate. I see the perspective, right? Where I'm at is you've made it to high level basketball. So whatever these people were telling you, either you believe it or you don't believe it because you're here. You are here, right? So there's some truth in some of the things that they've instilled in you. Maybe we don't like how they instilled it in you.
Exactly.
So the how, but I also think that they're not the ones at the disadvantage though, right? The player is not the one at the disadvantage. The coach and coaching staff are the ones at the disadvantage because I just got you
Yeah.
July and August. I've never lived with you. I've never
Yeah.
traveled with you. I don't know your consistent habits, right? Your parents know those consistent habits. Your trainer even knows a lot of those habits. Your AAU director that you've been with for 7 years, they know some of those habits. You just came into my house, CC. You just moved in.
Yeah.
You just got the bedroom down there.
Yeah.
I didn't know you snored. I didn't know you like to sit up late at night with your feet out, scratching your feet, watching TV, and not going to bed at a good hour. I didn't know that. But now that I do, I would say, hey, if you want to perform well, Cece, I mean, I know you want to watch your late night shows, but you may want to get to bed.
Yeah.
Right. I may suggest it. Eventually, it becomes a demand and a command, right? And you're like, you won't let me do me. Now, keep in mind, the people that did know all your habits co-signed it because you're going to now call those same people to tell them on Cameo.
Yeah.
Right? So all of y'all have one belief, but I'm the one that you're trying to perform for now, right now. So I don't get to tell the job I start tomorrow that, you know what, I just like typing this way. Y'all got to deal with it. They're like, no, you have to format it in this. Here at this company is formatted this way. For you to ascend and get promoted and get opportunities, you put it in this Excel. Well, I want to put the numbers on Word. This is what I do. And you're like, no, but I told you in recruiting, like this is kind of what we did. Look at that when I showed you, right? Because so now you're mad at me for telling you my house rules, the house that you chose to come to, and I told you the house rules. Right? I know there's some people that got some shenanigans and don't keep it 100, but a lot of the coaches do. And
Yeah.
I'm gonna take the coaches on this one because I think they're the ones at the disadvantage where now they gotta come and I ain't gonna say clean up a lot of it. They just hold you to a standard that they require here. CC, you require
Yeah.
certain things in your home. You require certain things. Some people are like, you come in my house, you always take off your shoes at the front door.
Well,
Put them.
yeah, I just think that's why it's so important for coaches to build relationships with these kids so they understand
But it's gonna be
both
limited.
sides,
But
and to manage, because it's a whole process that you have to manage with these kids that are still growing. The other part I want to get to on this is the part when you said, the kid said this, that, here, there, and then they end up at Mississippi State. So let me ask you this. When you have kids that do that and they tell you they want this type of coach, they want to go here, they want to go there, and then they end up at another school, how much of that do you think is their handlers, their friends, social media, other players in their head driving them to the decisions that they want and not necessarily what's good for the player?
Um, it's
Another
driven,
good question.
it's driven by a lot of those outside entities. I mean, like a lot. And social media definitely influences it. Um, but the handlers for sure, right? Because remember, they're outside the house telling you what should be going on inside the house. They don't even know what you're doing in the house. They don't even know what you're doing in there because those doors are closed. So they think they're coming out of love. They think. Well, I'm thinking positively, right? They
Yeah.
they're coming out of love. We know all aren't. Some are coming with selfish intentions for a myriad of reasons. But even if they're coming out of love, you're not coming at it from an informed perspective. You only have one opinion. That's it. From She came out of the house to tell you, hey, this is what's going on in the house. You don't really know that. But at the end of the day, if that head coach is saying this is what it is, this is what it is. Right. And you got to make a decision if this is what your dream was, if this is what you wanted, then I'm gonna go through that fire, that pain, right? That uncomfortability and trust it on the end. Um, I'm not saying she thought this way, but I just think of a player who wasn't recruited by Lindsay that decided to stay, decided to build, and is in. I mean, look at Raya. Trust me, there's people who told Raya to chunk up deuces. Trust me, there are people who told her that, right?
So I'm sure it happens every day. You know, I'm sure there's people that told people on USC's team now or UCLA's team or any South Carolina's team, go. You know what I mean?
And those are heavy influences because these people, like I said before, they've been with you 5, 7 years, some of them 8 years. They drove you to and from practice. You the homie, you on they. I get it, right? But I think at some point you got to step back and write down what you want. Where is the valley, right? Where's that middle where you say this is what I want. Um, this is where I hope to be on this side. What's required in here to,
Yeah.
to get over there? And simply ask yourself, does this place, does this staff, does this program give me that opportunity based on what I said I wanted? I understand they're going to ask me to do it a different way than I used to, but you're not getting it done your way. See, that's the ultimate thing I want to get across. See, your way is not working. It's not working. So we can say the coach is trash, but let's try the coach's way first. Then, if it doesn't work, we may just say, you know what, CC, this doesn't work between you and I, and we can make a mutual agreement that you need to go elsewhere. But don't let your trainer, club coach, mom, uncle, your cousin that you rarely see except on the barbecues, but y'all super cool, tell you they got you messed up because they partner so and so
Yeah.
got B and C, and you like, man, I'm way better than them. I should be getting that 2x. I get it. It takes a strong person to have write down your goals, write down your dreams, and then have a plan for it, and a coach that has a plan for it, and you acquiesce to that plan and just execute it. A lot don't want to do that, and it's getting
Yeah.
worse, and it's going to go worse because all these are just 1 year leases from here on
And
out.
and it's not even just in Division One basketball. I have
Period.
a friend, or I call her my play niece, that went to the same high school as my son, and he and she got offers from Division 3 programs. You know, not a Division 1 player, but she got offers from Division 3 programs, and she got offered at this one university. I'm not going to name the universities that was going to build around her,
Mm.
and then her people stepped in and said, "No, I think this school will be better for you, and plus you'll be closer to home if you go to this school." And instead of letting her think for herself and make her own decisions, she decided to go with what her handlers and her family wanted, and she stayed close to home, and she ended up sitting on the bench for 2 years in a Division III program. So now she's transferred again to another Division III program, and my only words to her was, I wish you a lot of luck. I hope you and you only made this decision, because she's wasted 2 years of her life because she was so busy listening to the stuff in her ears. And to your point and to the other perspective that I brought to you, these kids that are still young and emotionally and mentally growing, at some point in high school, decision making has to evolve. You know what I mean? To where, life is going to be after your handlers and your parents in some capacity, in some way. You have to start doing what's best for you. That might hurt your parents. You know what I mean? Because we as parents, we want that control. And when we start losing control of our kids, it's a big thing. It hurts us. But again, the child has to be able to evolve, live, and make mistakes on their own. Because if they make manufactured mistakes because of decisions they make based on what we want or their handlers want, that's terrible. You know what I mean? If they make decisions and make mistakes based on what their decisions were, that's growth.
I like
There's
the
a
way
big difference.
I like the way you put that. I definitely agree with you. I think these are young adults, right? And let young adults make informed decisions for themselves. Hey, I can give you the information. I want to give you it, but logic needs to always enter the chat, and logic in practicality needs to always stay in the chat,
Hmm.
right? It needs to come. I need to be able to look, make an informed decision, because even when the handlers come in, you're not making an informed decision, right? They
Or
have.
friends, even when friends get in your ear, you're not making them. You're being swayed. You're being swayed by influences, right? You're being manipulated. You're being influenced by what others want you to do, instead of really saying, "Hey, you know what? I appreciate that. And yeah, we could go hang and we can go to the same school and we can party together and go to." But at the end of the day, when those 4 years are over, or when that first year is over, was it beneficial to me, for my growth, for what I want to do? And I think that's part of this whole conversation of accountability. You have the emotional side of it, right? You have the manufactured belief side of it. You have your own side of it. Which one is going to be the best for you?
I'm with you, and young people, but see, young people make decisions all day. You just got to make an informed decision, right? Get all the information, write it down, um, and then go with what you believe. This equation is going to equate to this. It may not, and that's okay, right? Because if these people who your handlers and really love you, if it doesn't work out, they should. What you hope out of love shouldn't be, "I told you so."
Yeah.
I, it should have been, "Oh man, well, let's figure out a plan for you. Where are you feeling? What do you want? And then I think that will help them going forward. No one wants to hear that "I told you so." No one wants to hear "you got egg on your face." You
Yeah.
know, but there's this. I've made some informed decisions and got egg on my face.
Hmm.
You know what? I can look back and say, man, but based on the information I had, this is why I made that decision. It made sense at the time. Hey, I didn't get the results I want, right? None of these things are going to guarantee you to get the results you want. But at least going into it, my informed decision said, oh, this box was checked. This box was checked. This is what I want. Cool. It may just not work out, but it's your life, right? Make a decision at that point. Because, don't laugh at me, but it's not like it's only when we get to this do we refer to the kids and their handlers or parents. But these young people defy their parents every day. Your
Yeah.
parents told you not to date her,
Yep.
not to date him, and you still went and dated her or him. Some of it worked out great. Some didn't, but don't act like, man, I just don't want to go against my parents. First of all, if this is your Division I player, they're not paying no money for you, right? You
Yeah.
can make this decision and go and try to be happy. You try to be happy. not be happy for them.
Right.
You go try to be happy.
The biggest thing about kids, I think, in this generation is, and parents, again, we talked about helicopter parents and so on and so forth, but I want to end this because we're going on our, we always go overboard, but I want to end this by saying that no matter what you do in life, even as an adult, right? Every choice you make has a consequence, whether that be a positive consequence or a negative consequence. And you have to be able to spin that consequence as a growth. You know what I mean? Into growth, I should say, because you can't be afraid to fail. I mean, I'm still making choices that maybe not everybody would make the choices that I make. Maybe they're good choices, maybe they're not, but we're forever living, even as adults. And I think that kids, they have to be able to not be afraid to say, hey, I need to make this decision for me. But it's hard for kids to do that when parents have taken a lot of their time and their life and their energy to build you, and they throw that in your face all the time.
Now that I made all these sacrifices for
Yeah,
you. That I with you, and that's some pressure. That is definitely some pressure. So I don't want to act like that's not some variable or factor, right? It is, right?
yeah,
But and even then, you got to make a decision where you're going to be happy. You are going, as hard as that is. I tell my kids that all the time. I said, you're going to make a decision where I'm like, wish you would have went over here, but live with it. I'm going to love you.
yeah,
Period. That's my message to the parents. I can say, man, I would love for you to go over here. But you know what? If this is what you feel best, the parent in me is proud. The
yeah,
parent is proud because based on your own, I trust that I've instilled values in you to make informed, educated decisions. And this is the informed, educated decision that you made. You
yeah,
know what I mean? And kudos to you. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
and I'm gonna support you through that. And if it all goes bad, I'm here. I'm your
yep,
dad. I love you. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about if we make some mistakes at that point. Are they correctable mistakes? Let's correct them before we make this next decision. But I love my kids. I don't love my kids to do what I want them to do all the time. I love them because I love them.
yeah, absolutely. And
Our
I think that we got to end that here. But to circle everything around, we talked about revenue share and how I'm not happy with it, but you schooled me a little bit on how that works. So thank you very much. But I'm still not happy with it. And two, we talked about accountability in kids saying they want something and then do the other. And I brought some perspectives of why that may or may not be happening. And we talked through it, and it's always going to be about truth in the trenches. And thank you, Cameo.
And thank you guys. Y'all continue to support, man. Hey, we trying to bring something different. Truth in the trenches, baby.
You got anything going on you want to talk about?
Just my charity event in August.
Still, yeah.
Miles McGowan Coaches Classic. This is our 19th year. We have a whole Spread Love Week, August 4th through August 10th, culminated by Fresh Faces, August 9th and 10th in Oakland, California, which are rising freshmen, talented basketball players. We bring them in, put a spotlight on them, let them do some community service, learn about recruiting and seminars and different things. And it's just a wonderful opportunity, and it helps to build the legacy of my godson who passed away from cancer at 5. And so we raise money during this whole Spread Love Week. We give out scholarships there. We just try to love on the community, man, and at the same time raise cancer awareness, mental wellness, nutrition, and basically educating, elevating, and empowering the student athlete is what we're all about for that week. So y'all want to support? There's a link in my bio and Instagram. Go ahead and hit that thing. If there's a way you want to support, and it's not monetarily, get a hold of Cece. She'll get a hold of me, and let's try to build. We always need resources to make it bigger and better.
Yeah, I heard that. And I got the Big Ten 10 through 6 coming up breakdown. Look for that video on Monday. And then I got my website coming for
Hey,
USC.
let's
Uh,
go.
yeah, my website, I'm building that out. And then I'm going to do a film breakdown on the new Trojan that we just got. So look forward to those things coming out. And as we say at the end, fight on.
Right on, baby. Talk to you soon.